When I was in high school back in Pittsburgh, Taylor Alderdice High School, um, I didn't get Herschel. He was for the good students. Most of my rivals figured if Jimmy didn't get Herschel, we pretty much beat him up. He's gone. Way goodbye. And you can see the glee that the ringleaders behind what happened to me and how I was dusted in the way that the people who tortured me got away with humiliating me by way of a woman I loved and telling me to give tea and die as a laugh for people who tortured me as a child. Well, even now, this generation that's laughing in my face and throwing my generation under the bus has not apologized when I finally finished college after somebody deigned it. Well, somebody was good enough to teach me sign language. Nobody ever deigned to. This was a girl from the street. So I have Parkinson's. I'm not really prepared to deliver a complicated, well thought out storyline. What I want to do, however, is consider you a rapt audience looking for neo humanist advice. My best, in your best interest, I'll do my very best to accommodate this heartfelt desire on all your parts to comprehend the borderline elder. Because there's a lot of stuff in Spain. You can't talk politics. You can't talk politics anywhere anymore. People figure he's puffing himself up, making his voice sound dusky, pretending he's Oliver Tempest in a teapot. Citizen Ron McCain, not to make fun of nobody. I'm just saying that self-deprecating humor is faithful to the task. Mountebank. You can look that word up. It's has its origins in Latin or Greek, I suspect, maybe French. Mountebank. He said, Mountebank said, you want to know what the people say about us? He said, they don't care about right. Mountebank continued as this sank in like a fishing hook to his liberated charges. They care about responsibilities. And if you want to know where that comes from, what kind of theological empire, what kind of imperial underpass, what kind of undesirable crossroads this comes from, look ye at China. Okay. So I find it hard to represent this mountebank with a straight face because it was so collapsible. See, I'll try to explain to you the issue that Mountebank had co-opted for his right to destroy the earth routine. And I'll give you an antidote to this nonsense. The emphasis on responsibility over rights comes from self-respect. People have woken up that there's no self-respect in the so-called right to destroy planet Earth. We don't buy the insane gibberish that that's not what we're doing. We don't buy the insane gibberish that abandoning our children to the fires isn't exactly as bad as it sounds. We don't buy very much of the tawdry idea that rights and responsibilities are ferociously at odds. Gloves off. What we believe is that a new world is possible if we recognize responsibility. We can flourish with possibility. Confucius say, possibility is the gift to the generation who seek rights brought about by behaving responsibly. We see that these people don't care if there's a future for their children, much less their grannies. I'd like to offer you an alternative to your wonderful, wonderful fear of China, wherever it comes from, whatever possibilities. China, let me tell you something, is a very level-headed and decent place. When in the areas that are poor and overcrowded, people still are capable of deep personality. It's a place of ancient culture and wisdom. And it wouldn't hurt to understand a little bit about the differences. To say that America is special, not because we were born special, but because we do a good job of loving our neighbor. America is special because we do a good job of rising to the challenge of something we don't understand and learning about it. Okay? But that's not what I want to get to right this second. I'm going to remind you that that's what's known as a possible point of view. This is point of view in sign language. Okay? It's a little harder for me to do because I'm stiff with Parkinson's. Okay? This is point of view. Okay? It's a possible point of view. You'll say that comes from outer space. That's a flying saucer that's landed. That's squaring a circle. And see that thing? Thank you for lending me your spinner beanie. Because I have been enlightened by your idea that rights are liberation and responsibilities are slavery. Multi-bank. Calm down. There was a man who was I'm not my favorite ethnicity, foreign English. I greatly admire. He could spin a tale and tell it well. His name was Charles Dickens. A really, really wonderful character. You might think, oh, he was Victorian liberal who was in his class of comfort, his comfort zone. But he was a moralist who understood something. And that's that when you stop kicking others and come down enough to see that by kicking others, you're operating a terror that others will kick you, which is a way of kicking yourself. And let go of your fear of other people and your anxiety that leads you to what's known in psychology as displace, kicking yourself by kicking others. And show mercy and understanding and compassion. You will discover that you are suddenly in the realm of responsibility, caring. You will find that you are, in fact, in China. I think it's a mistake not to orient your preposterous mountebank psychology around the potentials to bring about flourishing through knowledge. Buckminster Fuller had a word he created that when he created it, had a great deal of foresight. People who saw the huge computers that were created for the Air Force in World War 1940s have seen heavy computers, televisions that didn't have the antennas, gradually miniaturizing, becoming less and less heavy. And he coined a term for it, ephemeralization. A woman evoked ephemeral today, and I said when I first heard it, I had to look it up. I read it in Buckminster Fuller. I thought it was sort of like a phantom, like an occult phenomenon. Can you understand ephemeral? That's like a phantom. But that's not what it was. She said it's like blowing bubbles, which is interesting because it's like fashion, which is temporizing, temporary. I said it was stultitious flannery, which means foolish frivolity. But Buckminster Fuller took it to mean something deeply important and metaphysical. Feminization meant making more and more with less and less until you can do everything with nothing at all. You know those iPhones that no one will part with for $1 million? You know, those iPhones. Um, Jordan Peterson asked his students, would you part with them if I gave you $100,000? And they wouldn't part with them until he hit 1 million. He found a couple people. It's an example of the enrichment potential that we have found in the ephemeralization process. Frank Herbert spoke of a high quality of life with a minimum drain on the overall ecological system. Buckminster Fuller said the universe is intent on making man omni-successful despite its overwhelming ignorance and fear. The stuff about freedom, as distinct from responsibility, comes from overwhelming ignorance and fear. People are meant to get along. We were created to understand one another. And by hook and by crook, certain forces have been ingrained in us to subvert that. They are not acting in the interests of our freedom by telling us that it is more responsible to destroy the planet than to look after each other. I don't mean to insult you, sir. I think you should reflect that words have meaning. And by setting a bad example, you're setting an example all the same.